Okay, good evening once again. Thank you for joining. I think hopefully more people will join us as we'll proceed. I know a couple of us have issues with installation of the operating systems, but I will try to address that after today's class. For today's session, we're going to start talking about what ethical hacking is, or what penetration testing is all about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and give some explanations. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
I can't see your screen.
All right, thank you.
Sir, I can't see your screen.
You
I
can.
can see your screen from my end. I can see it here.
I've seen.
Okay, thank you. If you can't see it, maybe it's your network. You should probably reconnect. So for today, like I said, we're discussing, start the discussion about the concept of penetration testing, what ethical hacking is really all about, and then the stages of penetration testing, right? So the different stages we have for penetration testing, the types of penetration testing engagements we have, as well as some of the tools we use for penetration testing. So to start, penetration testing itself is more of I know so most of us should have probably read about what penetration testing is, what ethical hacking is all about. But of course, it's more of a proactive security measure, right? So think of it this way. Organizations have systems, they have critical systems that they have in production, and these systems are vulnerable to, I mean, not let me say vulnerable to attacks, they are targeted by attackers. So these systems are targeted by attackers, and what organizations do is to ensure that before attackers go ahead and attack these systems and get access to these systems, they kind of have their own tests or checks to ensure that the system are secure. So it's more of a proactive measure in which organizations try to find security issues in their application or in their infrastructure before it is being attacked or exploited by attackers. So to give some sort of definition, penetration testing or ethical hacking is a proactive security assessment technique, and it is aimed at identifying and as well as exploiting vulnerabilities in systems and in networks. So system and networks can mean anything. It can be a web application, it can be a mobile application, it can be APIs, it can be physical systems, it can be Active Directory environments, it can be any kind of network resource or system. And the primary objective of penetration testing is to simulate real-world attacks, right? So you want to try to simulate attacks in which real attackers are going to do eventually if you are targeting your organization or your systems. So you want to simulate those attacks and use it to assess the security posture of your organization. So it's possible the organization has maybe a blue team, they have a security team in place that defends the organization, or you have some security control in place. With a pen test or an ethical hacking procedure, what you do is to ensure that those controls are effective, that they are working as expected. And the way you do that is by simulating attacks on the organization's infrastructure. Um, okay. Now moving on. I'll talk about the several stages or phases of ethical hacking we have. I'm going to talk about 5 or 6 stages. But before the very first one, we have this image trying to show us what's the stages of ethical hacking now, what the phases of ethical hacking. But even before the very first stage, which is reconnaissance here, I think in one of our first classes, I explained to us that ethical hacking itself, it's something that is not something you just go around doing, even though you may have the knowledge, you may know the tools to use. You don't just go around hacking systems that you don't have permission to hack. So it's a process that has some kind of legal understanding or legal consideration, let me say. So the very first stage or the very first phase of any ethical hacking procedure is to have a rule of engagement, or you call it a rule of engagement. At that stage is where you enter negotiation with the clients. So they tell you, okay, this is what the target is, these are the things in scope, these are the things not in scope. And the reason we have that phase, that rule of engagement, and at the end of the rule of engagement, the outcome is that you sign a letter of engagement, or you sign the organization signs a VAPT authorization letter. That's a vulnerability assessment and penetration test authorization letter, which shows that they have given you the permission to carry out the pen test exercise on their applications in scope. And the reason for that is because, again, now if you go ahead and start testing their networks without permission, as an ethical hacker, it can get you into issues. Or if you don't have a clear understanding of what the scope is, before engaging, it may also give you issues along the line. So at the very first stage, which is having a rule of engagement, trying to understand what the entire scope of the project is very important. That's why it's the very first phase of a pen test exercise or an ethical hacking exercise. But once that is done, we'll move on to the next phase, which is reconnaissance. Please give me a minute. Okay, like I was saying, the next phase is going to be reconnaissance. And what reconnaissance means really, we call it either reconnaissance. It has a couple of names. We call it reconnaissance, or we call it information gathering, or we call it footprinting, or open source intelligence. What reconnaissance really mean is at that stage is where you try to gather as much information about your target as possible. I think I may have also mentioned this to us in one of our first classes. There's a saying that you can't hack a system you don't know, right? So for you to say you want to hack any system, you want to exploit any system, you want to gain unauthorized access to any system, which is our definition of hacking, right? We want to gain any kind of access to any system. You need to first off understand what the system does, how the system is supposed to function. And once you understand all that, you can go ahead and look for ways to exploit the system. So the very first stage the very first stage after having a rule of engagement is reconnaissance, which is the stage you gather as much information as possible about your targets. So during the rule of engagement phase, the clients may have told you that, okay, the things in scope is a web application. It may be a web application, it may be a mobile application, it may be a domain name, it may be an IP address. They have given you the list of things in scope, or even if they have not given you, they may have told you what to look for. You may already have a list of the things that are in scope or things you should be testing. In the reconnaissance phase, that is where you look for everything and anything that's going to help you during the course of your engagement. So the reconnaissance phase is mostly overlooked by hackers generally, trying to just dive into scanning and enumeration, or trying to attack the things they have in scope. But if you spend enough time in the reconnaissance phase, if you are putting the time to understand how the system works, if you put in the time to find as much targets as possible that are related to your clients or your engagement, you have a higher chance of success. You have a higher chance of having a successful engagement if you spend enough time doing your reconnaissance. And reconnaissance, we have two types or two categories of reconnaissance. Your reconnaissance can either be active or it can be passive. So when we say reconnaissance, I say another name for reconnaissance is information gathering or open source intelligence. So in that phase, you are really trying to find out everything that relates to your client on the internet. So say, for example, Google called you to do a pen test for them, right? What you do in the reconnaissance phase is to find out what are the footprints Google has on the internet. What are the things that Google has out there? What domains do they have? What subdomains do they have? Which IP address blocks belong to them? Which IP addresses do they actually own? Which applications, mobile applications, web applications do they have? So what you're trying to find out in that stage is as much as possible about your clients, about Google, trying to see the things they have on the internet. And it can be passive or it can be active. It can be either be passive or active. And if it's passive, that is generally what we do when you just scrape the internet for information. You are not making any direct connection to the clients themselves. You are not querying the clients themselves for any kind of data. Just public information. But when the reconnaissance is active, is when you start trying to reach out to the targets or the things in scope directly and try to get more information from them that way. But once the reconnaissance phase is done, and we can also argue that the reconnaissance phase is kind of the most important phase of any successful engagement, because once you're able to get enough information about your clients, the probability of you being successful in that engagement is going to increase. So after the reconnaissance phase, once the reconnaissance phase is done, the next thing is scanning and enumeration. So scanning and enumeration really is about, okay, in your recon phase, you have found out some information about your clients, about your targets. You have some IP addresses you want to scan. You have some domain names. You have some mobile applications. You have some network devices you want to check. Any kind of thing you have found out in your recon phase, that's when you move on to scanning and enumeration. And in the scanning and enumeration phase is when you start to check out what ports are open on that target, what services are running. So in one of I think in our networking class, we kind of talked a bit about what ports are, what services are. This is where it becomes important in your scan and enumeration phase. That's where you start to think of what ports are open on this IP address, on this domain, what services are running, and what version of those services are running. So what the scanning animation phase does is just building upon the recon phase. So that is exactly why the recon phase is very important, because every other phase, every other stage after the recon phase are just kind of built upon this stage below it really. So anything we are doing in the recon phase, in the scanning animation phase, is kind of gotten from our results from the recon phase. So we are just feeding the output of one as the input to another. So, and again, in the scan animation phase is completely active, right? Because at that point, you are reaching out directly to the target, you are querying the target for information. So the scan animation phase is completely active, not active or passive like we have for reconnaissance. Then after the scan animation phase or stage, the next thing we have is getting access, or we call it exploitation. So from your scan and animation phase, you have probably found out which ports are open on an IP address. I'm going to take an IP address just to keep it simple. So you have an IP address, you have figured out which ports are open, we have figured out which services are running, and you have also seen what versions of those services are actually running. So it's possible that one of the services running is probably vulnerable to something, or a kind of vulnerability that is either known or something you can enumerate manually yourself. And maybe you have found a potential vulnerability in your scan and enumeration phase. The next phase is where you get to exploit that vulnerability. So when you start exploiting vulnerabilities in a particular service or software, That's the gaining access phase or the exploitation phase. What happens in that phase or that stage really is just getting access to the system. So that is the part whereby you maybe obtain credentials to log into a system, or you get some unauthorized access to the system. So that unauthorized access that we're actually talking about is more on the gaining access stage, the exploitation stage of ethical hacking. And once that is done, once you have that access, the next stage after that is maintaining access, or we call it persistence. And what that means is, okay, you have started from recon, right? So you have done scan and enumeration. You have also gained access. What you want to do now is to keep that access. You want to make sure that whatever happens, you still have access to that system. Yeah, you don't want a situation whereby you spend like maybe a week or 2 weeks trying to get access to a system, and eventually one particular night you hack into the system successfully and you went to bed because you are very happy you got access. Then you come back the next day and whatever way you used to get in doesn't work again. Now you have to start your process again. That's going to be very sad. So in the maintaining access phase, what we do is to really try to keep the access we have. And there are different ways we can ensure persistence. There are different ways we can ensure we can maintain access, which we are going to discuss when we get to the phase. But the main focus or the main objective of the maintaining access phase is just to make sure that, okay, after I've hacked the system, if I want to come back to this system tomorrow, if I want to come back a week later, if I want to come back 3 months later, I'm still going to have access to this system. Maybe with some sort of credentials you have created, or some sort of backdoor you have put on the system, you're still going to have access to that system. That's what that phase talks about. And the last phase in this diagram, which is actually not the last stage of ethical hacking, but the last one in this diagram, talks about covering tracks. So what covering tracks is all about is just, as the name implies, you have done all your testing. Now you want to remove any evidence that you were in the system. You want to clear anything that may indicate that you have gotten access to the system. And now this particular phase, like I say, although it's listed as a part of the stages of ethical hacking, most times it is not done as an ethical hacking process. And this is the reason. When most clients engage you, when they give you an engagement letter, or when they tell you to do a pen test, they want you to show that you have done something on their network. So if you tell them you got access, you're able to hack maybe you tell them you're able to get admin on their system, for example, they want to see evidence of that. They may tell you to, what I do most times is you put a file, maybe you put a file on their admin desktop or something, and I leave it there. The reason is because, you have admin access, you can go ahead and clear whatever you want to clear, but the client wants some sort of evidence that you've actually done what you claim to have done. So even though covering tracks is a stage of ethical hacking, from experience and from what most clients want, you don't get to do it. You just get to leave things the way they are. You write your report, you communicate it to them, and maybe after the report has been treated, you can now come back and start clearing everything you have done, just to make sure the system is safe after that. So even though it's a stage of ethical hacking, covering tracks is one step we often skip, unless the client specifically requests you that you clear everything you did. We just leave it there most times just to show as evidence or proof to the client that something has been done. So that is that. We also have another image, almost similar to the last one. The only difference is instead of 5, we have 6 in this image. And that brings us to the last phase or the last stage of ethical hacking, really, which is reporting. So I've also have mentioned this to you. I already said that reconnaissance is very, very important. For you to have a successful engagement, you need to be able to do your recon properly. You must be able to get as much information about your target as possible. So spend enough time on recon, and you will probably have a successful engagement because you have more information about your targets. On the other side of that is the last stage, which is reporting. Now, you may be a very good ethical hacker, you may be a world-class pen tester, right? they may give you a target and you find vulnerabilities in the application within maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days, who knows, right? But if you can't communicate your report properly, to we can't communicate the reports properly to the client, it's going to be a problem. And the reason for that is, okay, you want to you have found vulnerabilities, you have found everything, and you don't report it appropriately to the clients, they may not be able to know how to fix it eventually. So in addition to what kind of differentiates us ethical hackers from black hat hackers really is that we are submitting a kind of report to the organization, to the clients, and you want to make sure that they fix those things so that other attackers don't find them and exploit them eventually. So rather than much more than just you finding vulnerabilities in their application or in their infrastructure, you also want to make sure that you submit a detailed report to them that they can clearly understand and also know how to go about fixing things in their infrastructure. And these are just more notes on the several stages I already talked about. I'm going to skip this, and maybe when I send the slide, we can read about it. But the reporting aspect, we have two forms of reports. When we do reporting, the first one is having an executive summary report, or an executive report, we call it. And that's the kind of report that you make, and it has an overview of the findings, and it's much more suitable for management or C-level executives. While you also have the technical details report, which gives an in-depth description of vulnerabilities found, including how they are discovered and how they are exploited, and also makes assessments, trying to show the impacts each vulnerability is going to have on the organization, as well as recommendations. So the steps to follow to remediate the vulnerabilities found, and also to improve the overall security is going to be part of your report. So evidence as well, like adding screenshots, adding logs, adding any other proof of testing. Those kind of things also should be part of your report. So the reporting phase, like I already said, is crucial, and it provides insights, and it helps the organization to understand how to address their security weaknesses. So what separates you as a professional from someone in the wild is that you want the organization to know that these vulnerabilities exist, and you want to make sure that it is being fixed, right? So you submit a report that tells them how to address their security weaknesses. So the goal is to ensure that, or to enhance the security measure, and also to prevent potential real-world attacks. Now we'll talk a bit about the different types of penetration testing engagements. The common one, I think I should start from black box and go back to white box. The common kind of penetration testing engagements you may be familiar with is the black box penetration testing. And what black box means really is that as the ethical hacker, as a pen tester, your client has reached out to you, but the only thing they might have told you is just maybe the name of the organization or the thing you need to test. They don't give you much information about their infrastructure. They don't tell you much about their infrastructure. They just go ahead and engage you and tell you, okay, we want to do a pen test, and just figure out the things you will need and test them and give us a report. So in a black box pen test, there's no real information provided to the tester at all. You as a pen tester, you need to follow this whole approach, these stages of ethical hacking we have discussed. So you need to follow those stages and follow the approach of an unprivileged attacker. So the same way an attacker would have done it, that's what you need to go through in a black box engagement. So starting from initial access, starting from the reconnaissance all the way to exploitation. So the black box penetration testing engagement is kind of seen as the most authentic way of doing a pen test, right? It kind of demonstrates how an adversary or how an attacker with no inside knowledge, how they will go ahead and compromise the organization. And of course, we need to mention that a black box penetration testing is the most costly, right? It's out of the three types of penetration testing engagement we have, black box engagement is I mean, it's more costlier than the other two. And the reason is because no information is provided. The tester, you as the ethical worker, need to go ahead and figure out things by yourself. So it's more time consuming. And I mean, they say that time is money, right? So as long as you spend more time on the target, on the test, you build more. So black box engagement takes more time, and it results to paying more by the clients. The other one is a white box penetration testing, which is like the opposite of the black box. And what's the white box penetration testing is all about is the clients now, they kind of give you access, right? Okay, they kind of tell you the exact things you need to work on. And if you need credentials as well, they can also give you credentials and give you network maps. And the reason organizations do this is not because they don't want you to test from the vantage point of an attacker, right? Not because of that. There are sometimes, okay, these organizations that do pen tests, you have to also understand that they are businesses. They have products they are running. They have so say for example, if Google asks you to do a pen test, for example, Google provides services to a lot of people daily, and they can't afford their network to go down for anything, right? So these organizations are also businesses. They have things they are doing, and they may be crunch on time to get a pen test done. Most people do pen tests for several reasons. Some do it because they want to know the security of their application, their security status. Most organizations do it because they just want to meet some standards, some requirement standards by organization. So say a bank, for example, for those of us in Nigeria, we have several banks and they have a governing body, the CBN, right? Most of them do pen tests, and they tell you you have 5 days to do the pen test, even though a pen test should last longer than that. But they tell you you have 5 days to do the engagement because they have a meeting with CBN next week and they need to submit a report. So most of them do these things just to check a thing on their checklist of okay, they need to submit something to a governing body or something like that. So even though they know that black boxes are most likely the authentic ways to do a pen test, there are times that they are crunch on time and they do a white box engagement just to save time and also to reduce the cost of the engagement. So black boxes, it takes more time, you figure out things yourself, and that costs them more. So if they want to either save time or try to reduce the cost of doing engagements, white box penetration testing mode can be a good approach. So a white box penetration testing is it's very useful for simulating more of a targeted attack, right, on a specific system, and try to utilize as many attack vectors as possible. Then we have the last one in the list, which is the gray box. And the gray box pen test is kind of in the middle. It's kind of in between white box and black box. So in gray box pen test, which is also known as the translucent box test, it's kind of only limited information is shared with the tester. So if you probably require some kind of login details for your test, they will probably give you the login details. But what they do is they will give you login details of a user with minimum level of access. So the kind of access you will have those login credentials will be minimal, probably the least kind of information you can have. So they can give you something, they can tell you something about their network, but you won't have full information as in a white test engagement. So gray box testing is very useful to understand, okay, the kind of level of access a privileged user could gain. So as a user of the network, if you have some kind of access, what kind of damage can you do from an inside, from a level of user that has some kind of access. So it's very useful for testing insider threat or insider attack, and it strikes a balance between the depth and efficiency that can be used to simulate either an insider threat or an attack that has breached the network parameter. So gray box is just in between white and black. You have some kind of information, but it's very minimal. Then we have several types of penetration testing. The first and the common one I have on this list is a network penetration testing. So that's ways of you trying to evaluate the security of a computer by simulating attacks from malicious outsiders. I'm going to share this slide with us so we can take our time to read through it. Then we have Active Directory penetration testing, which is more focused on Active Directory environments. Then we also have web application testing. This is when most people hear pen testing, when most people hear hacking. This is what most people actually think of web application, where they say, okay, you can hack a website, you can defacing a website, things like that. So that's what comes to mind mostly. But it's just one aspect of hacking generally. It's just one type of penetration test. So web application testing kind of includes assessment of websites and custom applications that uses the web. So that uses the web and is looking to uncover coding, design, and development flaws that could be exploited. So it's just testing the web application, any kind of security issues. Then similar to that, we have API pen tests, which API in the background, they are still web applications, but they're just a particular type of web application. And that's why they have their own area of focus when it comes to penetration testing. So we also have API pen test as well. We have mobile application testing. We have wireless. We also have some build and configuration review, like source code review of application of source codes of applications. Then we also have social engineering. So all of the type of pen tests I've been talking about earlier, they are like kind of technical things, right? They have to do with computers. They have to do with network devices. But social engineering is kind of different. And the way it's different is it's kind of focuses more on the human elements of cybersecurity. So rather than going after or targeting machines, targeting network devices, social engineering tries to exploit the human nature, right? It tries to see if your employees or if humans can be exploited. So, and it does this using a couple of techniques, things like social engineering, like phishing attacks. So, setting up customized phishing emails, even as going as far as business email compromise attacks. So I know one of our labs also require, we are going to look at how to set up a phishing platform. But that's still something we'll look at later on. And there's also the cloud penetration testing, which has to do with testing the cloud environments for different kind of misconfigurations. So that's it on my slide. I'm going to talk about one more thing. I'm going to share this screen. Okay. So I want to share a kind of framework with us we can use for. So what I want to do now is we have talked about the different stages of ethical hacking, from reconnaissance all the way to reporting. So we'll try to take them one after the other for the next couple of weeks. And we'll start with reconnaissance. So for reconnaissance, there are a lot of things we can do for reconnaissance. And there are a lot of tools you can actually use as well. Some of them are online. Some of them we have to install on Kali, on our Kali operating system. So I'm going to discuss some online one here, and also some we can install on Kali, we should install as well. But if you go to this web application, hostingsframework.com. So let me copy that and put it in the chat. Let me also see if I can post that on Slack. Okay. Well, what this platform does, what Hosting Framework does is, if you want to do reconnaissance, if you want to gather information about your targets, there are a lot of ways you can go about it, right? Say you have, reconnaissance can be anything. It can be, you may have a username, for example, and you want to see platforms where that particular username is registered, or which platforms those username are being used on, or that username is used on. you can look at the username section and see tools you can use to look at various usernames, right? If you have an email address you want to do recon on, you can also do the same for email addresses. If you have a domain name, generally, any kind of thing you have, be it a username, email address, a domain name, IP address, you can generally go about using something like OSINT framework to see or to find tools you can use for that particular activity. So one thing I also want to mention is that during the course of this class, I won't want you to be fixated on a particular tool, right? So I may tell you to enumerate a username. I may use a particular tool to do it, but if you want to do the same thing, you may use the same tool, but I'm not going to expect you to actually rely on that's just one tool to do it every time you want to do it. The reason is because these tools change over the years. It may work today, it may not work again in the next 3 months, right? And if what you do is to try to be fixed on a particular tool, be fixated on a tool, and it stops working, it may not do what you want to do at that point. So instead of trying to cram tools, I think it's better for you to have an understanding of exactly what you want to do first, and then you can use any tool you want to use as long as you have an understanding of what you want to do. So a platform like hostingframework.com is very good. You can always check it to see if there are tools you can use for a particular activity. But the one I'm going to be talking about today and also looking at how to install is going to be username enumeration. So I know a couple of us, we have our account names, right? So the way we are going to do it is we are going to install a particular tool in Kali and then see if we can use the tool to search for our usernames, right? It can be any kind of username. So let's say you go on Twitter. Your job as an ethical hacker goes beyond, just hacking websites. Hacking can be applied to anything. One of our very first class, I talked about what hacking is to me. Hacking is hacking is thinking generally. It goes beyond saying you use a particular tool to do this, to do that. Hacking is just thinking. So if I say a particular username on Twitter or on Instagram, and I want to figure out, okay, which other platform is this username registered on? Which other platforms is it in use? Or I can even go as far as trying to figure out who is the person that actually owns that account. Maybe try to uh, find a full name for that person. Trying to do some username enumeration might be quite helpful. So using things like this kind of techniques we have here can be very useful as well. There are even some particular sections for social networks. So if you want to do such a particular username across Facebook or across Instagram, you can check this link out to do all that. But like I said, we're going to be installing a particular tool on Kali. So I'm going to go ahead and share that screen. If you're also on your system and you have Kali set up, you can follow along as well. Please give me a minute while I switch to Kali. I think I have some things running there currently. I do not want to share on this call. So I'll just start up my Kali, minimize everything I need to minimize, then I'll go ahead to share the screen. Um, okay. Okay, second. I think I can go ahead and share that screen. Okay. I think you should see my Kali browser now. Let me just open up another terminal. Okay. I think we should be able to see this now. So the tool we are going to be installing is called Sherlock. So if you are a fan of movies like me, and you probably see some, I think it's Enola Holmes or something, or you have seen Sherlock Holmes, it's kind of similar to what the guy does. I mean, the guy is an investigator, right, or a detective, however way you want to put it. But the name of the tool we are going to be installing is called Sherlock, and it's on GitHub. So you can do a Google search for Sherlock GitHub, and the one we want to install is going to be this very first one. I'm going to copy the link, put it in the chat so we all have the same link, and also I'll put it on Slack. Let me see if I can find. Okay. So the tool, you can kind of read what the tool does here. They kind of give a description. So basically what it does is to hunt down social media accounts by username across over 400 social networks, right? So if you have a username, you can just do a search on it to see any platform that particular username is registered on. And to install Sherlock, it's kind of straightforward. The only thing we need to do is copy this command here. So copy this command over here, which is pipx install Sherlock-project. And it's also possible you may not have pipx installed by default, so you can also use pip to install it. And I'm going to show us what that looks like. So the command you need to use is pip install Sherlock projects. So just like we have on my screen, if I can spell projects. Okay, so it's pip install Sherlock projects, and if you press enter here, it should install the project for us. I think I already have it installed, so that's why it's showing me. It's going to show me I have it installed actually. But if you're installing it for the first time, that should install everything you need for you. It should kind of give you kind of install all the packages it requires. And once it's done, it should also tell you it's done so we can see how the tool works. So once it's done eventually, you should have a new command you can run. The command is Sherlock. So if you type Sherlock on your terminal, it should give you an output. Open it to give me an output. Okay. So to give you something like this, should tell you it requires a username or usernames. So the way we are going to do it is, I'm going to want a couple of us, maybe like 3 of us, to just give me a username. It may be a username that belongs to you or a username you have come across. Just give me some usernames in the chat. Then we are going to use Sherlock and see what platforms those usernames are registered on. Okay, so please, you can drop username suggestions in the chat, please. Can everyone hear me to confirm? Okay, thank you, Rachel. I want more suggestions. Thank you, Rosaline. Okay, so I think I'll just start it. All right, thank you. I think I'll just start with Rachel 29. So the way we use the tool is actually sort of straightforward. The only thing we need to do is enter the command, which is Sherlock, and then we need to supply the username we want to search for across platforms. So I'm going to start with Rachel29. So to do that search, I'm just going to type Sherlock, which is the command, then Rachel29. Again, if you run Sherlock and it tells you the tool is not installed, you have to do the installation first. Make sure you do the installation first, then you have the Sherlock tool after that. So once that is done, I can provide Sherlock, then the username, and just press enter. And it's just going to go ahead and start looking for these usernames across several platforms. And it's just going to give us the result it gets back. Now, this result is giving back. You need to keep something in mind. This particular check we are doing is still under reconnaissance. It's still under information gathering. And one thing about information gathering is you are trying to gather as much information as possible about your target. So if you are looking for a particular person, for example, and you know their username, is probably a way to go. But something you should keep in mind is that in the information gathering stage, not everything you gather will eventually be useful to your search along the line. Even in a classic pen test, everything you find at the beginning may not be everything you test at the end of the day, right? So in the information gathering stage, why this can give us, it can give us several lists, several links to different platforms it finds the username on. Some of them may belong to you, some of them may not belong to you, and the reason is because these are just usernames. I mean, other people can also have the same username suggestion. Other people can use the same username to register on different platforms, right? So this username is going to come up in multiple places, and you can just copy the link and see if it is valid to your search or not. So I see this username coming up on, I see one on Cyber Defenders. I saw one on Cyber Defenders. But I can scroll through. So I saw one on Cyber Defenders. You can just go ahead here and copy the link, right? So you can copy that link, then go to your browser. This is still going on. But while it's still going on, I'm going to go to the browser and just paste the link I copied and see if we get anything back. Okay, I think this is requiring us to log in first. But what that's just showing us that there's a particular user on cyberdefenders.org and the username is Rachel29. And there's also, I think I also saw someone for a GitHub account. So I can also copy that. So at this reconnaissance phase, what you do really is gather information and try to validate if they are valid to your engagement or not. So if I'm looking for this particular person, I have this username, I can just keep looking. I have so many platforms returned. I'll start looking at each of those platforms and see if it relates to the kind of person I'm looking for or not. Okay, so that is one username. I'm going to try a couple more. So I'm going to try Cyber Rose, Dexter, and username 123. But again, it's just the same process. It's just the same process, really. So just username is Sherlock. I mean, the command is Sherlock, and the username you want to enumerate. There are also other options you can use with Sherlock if you want to customize it. There are other options, but generally I just use the command that I used earlier, just the Sherlock command and username. And it's also possible for you to process the request through Tor. I know we have not done Tor. Tor is more under anonymization, where you try to hide your requests. We'll get anonymization actually maybe later in our training, maybe towards the end. But it's possible you also use, you do these searches, but if you don't want the search to appear from coming from your computer, you can also anonymize your request by sending the request over Tor. But for now, we'll just stick with the basic usage, right? So I'm going to use Sherlock again, and the username I want to search for this time is CyberRose, and we'll see if anything comes back. It's also giving different results as well. So saying there's an account on Codecademy. ArtStation, Binance. You also need to click on any one of them to copy and open in the browser. Oh. Hmm. Okay, this is also done. But I think we kind of get the idea at this point, right? It's just use the Sherlock command and then provide the username you want to search for. Or you can also put the usernames in a file and do multiple searches that way. So I think for the okay, so I think I will try to do for the other two we have the command to install Sherlock. This is the command. Let me just copy that. So the command to install Sherlock is pip install Sherlock -projects. It's also on my screen currently. Let me also see if I can post that on Slack. Install Sherlock project. Okay, well, that's the command to install Sherlock. And I also think we can do multiple usernames. Let me confirm. I know we have one Dexter and a username 123. I think it's possible to supply multiple usernames. Okay, so you can also supply multiple usernames. Just put a space after each username and it will try to search for them one after the other. But I think at this point, we get the idea. Then one other tool we want to look at is a tool for email enumeration. And there's a use case we can look at for email enumeration as well. There are times you get email from different people. You may not, I mean, you'll see the email address and you may be curious where the email is coming from or who is actually sending the email. One thing we can do is to kind of do some email searches and try to see which email or which person the email is registered to. There are tools we can use for that, but the tool we want to talk about now is more of, okay, you want to find emails that belong to a company, for example. So I'm going to go back to sharing my browser. Okay, so going back to this, if we go under email here, I think the tool is also listed here, so it's a good thing we can see it from here. If we go under email addresses or email address, under email search, the tool we want to look at is Hunter, and it's a web application, right? It's It's on hunter.io. So let me put that in the chat. So hunter.io, what it does is to find email addresses. We can use to find email addresses, corporate email addresses that belongs to an organization, or if you have a particular email address you want to search for, I think you can also use it for that. But you need to create an account to do most of the searches. You need to create an account. So you can click on, I'm going to expect everyone of us to actually create an account. So click on create an account. You can sign up with Google. It's going to complain a bit about, it's going to complain about you using a free email address or something, but I think you can ignore it and continue. So if you click on, okay, says Google sign up is disabled. Okay, so let me see if I can use this manually. Let me see. Okay, it's complaining about a password leak. I know I'm going to forget the password soon enough and I will need to reset it, but okay. So, okay, it's not allowing me to use this. I was talking about using a professional email address, but I know sometimes it's going to, you can try to register, try to sign up. It may allow you to sign up eventually, but it's going to complain about using a free email like Gmail. But you can just try and see if it lets you sign up. But eventually, what we need from Hunter is their, I think is their Finder feature, if I remember correctly. And let me see if it's Finder. Not found. So I need to sign up. What I actually need is their Finder feature where you can okay, yeah, it's domain search really. Okay, so in this, let me copy this URL and put it in the chat as well. In this domain search, it gives us a couple of options. The first one is to find email by company. So if you are testing a company and they probably ask you to do social engineering as part of your exercise, it's going to help you if you have a list of valid users or valid emails of employees that work in that company. So if you have a domain, you can enter that domain and try to get results back. So if I want to test Google, for example, I can enter google.com here. And what is going to happen is this kind of give me a list of email addresses of people in Google. These are currently blurred out because I'm not using an account. So you need to log in. So you can try to create an account. If it allows you to create an account, then you can log in and you'll be able to see these results. Then you can also find email address by name. So if you know the full name of someone and you know they work in a particular company, you can try to find their full name as their company name. And they also have a feature that allows us to verify an email address. So if you get an email address from someone and you want to know if that email address is legit or not, you can try to use this verify email feature where you just type in the email address and try to verify that email address. That's funny, saying my email address is invalid. I promise you my email address is very valid and I use it to receive emails. But again, is for most of these things, it's better to have an account. So if you can create an account, that would be better. Try to get an account and yeah, it should give better results. There's also something I want to, there's one more tool I kind of use for email verification, and I want to see if I can find it. Um, please give me a minute. I can't find the exact one I'm looking for currently, but before tomorrow's class, if I find it, I'll just talk about it more. So those are some tools we can work with. So what I'm going to expect from us is just some kind of practice, really. Try to install Sherlock on your Kali, then just try to practice using some usernames, and if maybe usernames that even belong to you, and see if you find your username registered on any platform you know you use. And also try to get an account on Hunter.io. It may eventually not allow you to create the account. Uh, Rachel, the command to use for username is just Sherlock, and the username is just something like this on my screen. So Sherlock, and you give it the username you want to search for. Okay, the attendance is in the chat. You can sign the attendance, and then that's going to be it for me for today's class, actually. But I also want to talk about something else before we close. Okay. So for the last week, and I think, yeah, when we actually started, I told us to install some things like set up Kali Linux, set up Ubuntu server, Ubuntu desktop, and the likes. And I know some of us have had issues with the installation, but then I tried to also send links, YouTube videos, really, to do those installation, and I don't know if everybody has completed it. Then I saw some messages about people saying you ran the application and now your screen is blank. So the whole idea of us downloading VM in the first place is to make sure that we can run those things in a virtualized environment, visualized environment, yeah. So for the ISOs, you are not meant to run them on your system directly. That's the purpose of us downloading VMware to start with, so we can use it to install these tools and then run our uh, other operating systems inside his virtual environments. So for the ISOs, you're not meant to run them directly on your system. You're meant to install them on VMware. You're meant to install them on VMware. Okay. So yeah, that is just what I wanted to mention. So do you have any questions for me about today's session?
Okay, please. I tried to I inputted Sherlock username. So how do I say it now? It asked me to install sudo apt install Sherlock, and I typed yes. I entered Kali password. Now it's saying you're unable to locate package Sherlock.
Have you installed Sherlock?
Yes, I've installed it.
Please share your screen.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Okay, I've not started sharing. Where by now?
Okay, I can see your screen now.
Yes, they're saying you're unable to locate package Sherlock.
Okay. Okay, so I think I see what the issue is. I'm going to put the command in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, please check the chat. Copy and paste that chat. Have you?
I can't find my way there back to Zoom and copy. Jesus Christ.
Okay, you can't find Zoom, right?
Yes.
No problem. Let me just call the command for you. So type export.
Export. ES.
Space
Okay.
capital PH.
Space capital PH.
PATH.
PATH.
Equals
Okay.
to. Okay.
Okay.
Then the dollar
Should
symbol.
I space it?
No. Dollar symbol.
Dollar symbol. Jesus Christ.
That should be on 4. So shift 4. Okay, then
Okay.
type that part again. Capital letter still. Then
Okay. Column.
colon, yeah. Then / home. No, small letter now. / Kali. / a dot. So dot local. / bin, BIN. BIN, not PIN. Enter.
Is it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now type Sherlock again.
Okay. I should enter the username as well.
Yeah. No space.
I should press enter.
Yes, please. Okay. It should work now.
Okay.
Please, can you share your screen? I'm going to stop.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Please share your screen. This is weird. The PIP install shell of projects. I'll scroll down. So I'll run the command again, please. Scroll the way down. Just press enter, run the command again. It's looking more like a network error. So yeah, I see the error. It's looking more like it's a network error, but SSL error. Please hold on. Mm. So let's try PIP3. Instead of just PIP, change it to PIP3. No, I see the same error. SSL description. You don't have PIPX installed, or you can install PIPX first. So do sudo apt install PIPX.
I should press what?
Apt install space PIPX. Password for Kali should be Kali. The password won't show, so just type Kali and press enter. Just type Kali, all small letters. Okay, I don't think the system is updated. So do sudo apt update first. Updates. Updates.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm present. My network is not good.
Okay.
Yeah, but I am saying I'm present.
Yeah, no problem, Talia.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, so try the install PIPX again. So sudo apt install PIPX. No, start with sudo.
Sorry, please. What am I typing?
Sudo apt install PIPX. Still unable to locate. Well, the update's not finished as expected. Is it possible to change the network you are on and try again? I think most of these things is more of network issues. Chris, is that possible? Chris, can you hear me? If you can hear me, just try a different network. I'm going to stop sharing your screen. Try a different network and let me know. Does anyone else have any other questions? Can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, please, the attendance is in the chat, right? Make sure you sign the attendance before you leave the meeting. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to stop here for tonight, and I will see you.
I can hear you.
Please, what time is tomorrow's class?
It should be in the morning actually. Well, I'll let you know before. It should be around 10, 11, but I'll let you know around 8 or 9. But it won't be as late as it used to be. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Good night.
Excuse me, sir.